get this for other students. Okay.
Okay, so actually, I think in my discussion post you will see I'm not a math-minded person, but I usually struggle with equations and stuff. However, what I'm struggling with right now is the quartiles and percentiles and finding the median. So I was hoping you could give me an example of that, of a data set, and kind of just show me how to do it.
Are you using let's see, you could use Excel, or are you just wanting to do it with that formula?
Well, I'm open to, I guess, with the formula. Is that what we'll be using?
Yeah, we could do that. I could just why don't I just make some numbers up? I hope this works. But anyway, let's say let me just do some let's say 2, 5, 7, 9, 1, 2, 4, and 2, and 6. I don't know. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so first thing you want to do is reorder them. So you have 1, 2, 2, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 numbers.
Right.
Okay, the median is always just the middle number.
Right.
So the median is here, number 5. There's 4 below it and 4 above it.
Right.
So if you have an even set, let's say we have 1, 2, 2. Let me get you a new set of numbers. Then we have 10 numbers now. Then you go count 5 numbers and 5 numbers, and you take the average or the mean of the 2 middle numbers. It's really hard to write on this, so if you can't.
No, I see it. I get it.
Okay, so you do 4 plus 5 divided by 2, so it would be 4 plus 5. So that would be how you find the median.
Right. That I can do. Where it talks about finding like the first quartile, second quartile, and then like the. That's where I'm confused.
All right. Let's use those same numbers. I'm going to go ahead and erase this because you can't get another page. So, hi, Charmaine. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, well, I'm just going to continue. So I have 1 is going to take me a while to get used to this. 2, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. So you want the first quartile. That's 25%. You want the numbers below 25% for Q1, correct?
Right.
Okay, so the formula is I equals the quartile, which is K, I guess, over 100 times N plus 1. And what I do is I make lots of note cards. So the K is a percentile, so it's 25%. So 25 over 100 is 0.25. You don't need to do this really right here. But how many numbers do we have? We have 9 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 numbers. So 9 plus 1 is 10. So on the calculator or whatever, that's 2.5.
Okay.
So we round it down and we round it up to the nearest integer. Up and down. So we have 2. When you round it down, it's 2. When you round it up, it's 3.
Okay.
Okay, now those are positions. What number's in the second position? These are positions. Once you have to make sure your numbers are in order. That's number one. That's important.
Okay.
So what number's in position 2?
Of the data set,
Yeah,
number 2.
2.
Right.
All right, so that's 2. What's in position 3?
It's also 2.
Okay.
Right.
Yes. So we have our numbers, then you take the average of those.
Okay.
And that's your Q1.
Okay.
So average of 2 plus 2 divided by 2 is 2.
Okay.
So Q1 is 2. And you would do that for every, so for Q3, what percent would you use for Q3?
Is it not 75%?
Right.
Okay.
So why don't you go work that out and see what you get? I'll give you a
Okay.
second. See if we're on the same page.
So just use the 0.75 in place of where the 25 is?
Yeah. And then we have 9 numbers, so you would make that 10. You just add 1 to the number of numbers you have.
Okay. So is it going to be 7.5 for that first equation? And
Yep.
then you round down and up, which is going to be 7 and 8?
Yeah,
Is that
so
right?
take the average of the 2 numbers in those positions, 7 and 8.
In the data set, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
So essentially it's 13 divided by 2.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. 6.5 then.
6.5. So that means there are 75% of the data is below 75%. That's what that means.
Okay.
So for Q3, it's 75%. So that would be 0.75 times 10 is 7.5. So 7 when you round down, 8 when you round up, 7 is 6, and 8 is 7. They're in position 7 and 8. So the numbers are 6 plus 7 divided by 2 is 6.5 for Q3. That means that, again, 75% of the data is below 6.5.
Okay. That helped me. Thank you.
Okay. And you can also we can also do an Excel, but I don't think we have a lot of numbers you have to worry about working with. So I like just using the formula. It's
Okay.
not too bad. You'll
All
get
right.
the answers in the learning checks or the knowledge checks using this formula.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. We have Charmaine. Can you hear me? Tracy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, Tracy, I just talked to you. Sorry.
Yes.
Lee, can you hear me? Do you have anything else you want to go over?
That was my main thing right now. So.
Okay. All right. Well, you can hold on, or like I said, I don't really have anything prepared because I don't know where the problems are. So
Right.
Today and tomorrow evening, I can go over everything too. So.
Okay. I'm just I'm good for now. I think I'll see if anyone else. Oh, someone's at work and can't talk but is listening.
Yes. So I just need I need to know what kind of questions you have. I can go over examples. I can go over homework. I can go over wrap-ups. I can go over anything. You can email me questions and I'll do them here because I'm recording this and you can watch it later. So all the sessions should be recorded. But again, I don't know what to go over if you don't ask what you're having trouble with.
Okay, so I think I know how to do this, and I'll just ask the question in case someone else can't. Would you
Okay.
like to give an example of finding the percentile of the value in the data set? Which the one example the readings gave us was about the minutes and the quartiles. Is it done differently than the example we just did?
Can you tell me where? Is it in? Because I have all the assignments printed out. Is it in a specific problem?
This one was just example number 7, A and B quartiles and outliers. So
yeah, percentiles would be the same. If you want the 78th percentile, you would.
Yes.
Hold on. Sorry. If you want the 78th percentile, you would just put 78.78 and do the same thing.
Okay. All right. That's kind of what I figured. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, but that's like I said, I like using the formula more than I like using Excel. Sometimes you have to use Excel if you have such a big data set, but
right.
for most of the problems we have, I'm just looking through like the knowledge checks. I use this formula to get the answer. It's a lot easier.
Okay.
So again, if you just joined us, the formula is, I'm gonna erase this because it's recorded. The formula to find percentiles and quartiles is I equal K over 100 times the number of numbers you have in the data set and then you just add 1. So just to give another example, suppose you want the 64 percentile. And I can't write really good on my tablet, so bear with me. My handwriting is really bad. You would do 64 over 100, or you could just do 0.64. You should be able to change percents to decimals here. So you could just do 0.64, and then suppose you have 100 numbers in your data set, then you would just use 101. Okay, so let me use my calculator. Again, there's a free online calculator you can use. I just like to have one handy. I use a TI-84, but you can use just a simple calculator, your phone or whatever. This is a 64.64. Okay, so then you round down to the nearest integer would be 64. Then you round up to the nearest integer, which is 65. And then those are, you have to remember positions. Those aren't your numbers. Okay, those are positions. So you want to find the number in the 64th position, but be careful. You must organize your numbers in order, okay? Increasing to decreasing. So organize numbers first. That means to increasing order, decreasing to increasing. So make sure you organize your numbers first, then find out what number's in position 64, what number's in position 65, and you average those numbers together. Oh, my handwriting is really bad. You average the two numbers that are in those positions together. So you don't average the 64 and the 65. You average what number is in that position in the data set. Does that make sense? So make sure oh, hold on. This means 64% of your data of the 100 numbers are below this average that you got. Okay, Charmaine. I have the question about population and parameter. And this is kind of easy to remember only because they're both P words. So population goes with parameter, and sample goes with statistic. So another easy way, they're both P words, P population, P parameter, S sample, S statistics. Another thing is that population and sample are like groups of things, and parameter and statistic are usually numbers of what you're studying. So that's how I like to remember that. Now, so population is the big picture. Here's where you're looking at, and we can't study the whole population. There's no way. Usually there's an infinite number, and or I mean, if you take the population of the world, you can't really count that because you're always going to miss something. So we take this little example that represents the population, and we're going to learn how to do good examples later, but right now we're just learning definitions. And so population is pretty general, and example is kind of specific. So the parameter goes with the population. Now let's just get kind of an example. And if you just joined us, what I like to do is I have a collection of note cards, and you can put all these definitions on a note card. So let me go to another page. So let's say we're doing a study on average income of, say, Arkansas. So your population would be all well, average income of Arkansas, let's say, of employed people. I'm sorry, my writing's bad. I'm going to go back to typing, but in Arkansas. Okay, so your population is everybody who's employed really in Arkansas. Your example, and again, we don't know much about what we're doing right now about samples because we haven't learned how to take samples, but the sample would just be a group of those employed people in Arkansas with incomes. So we don't know how to do those samples yet, but we will learn how to take good samples. Now the parameter, sorry, would be the average income of employed people in Arkansas. So because that's what we want to measure, and then the statistic would just be the average income of employed people in Arkansas who is in our study. Now, how do we pick those people? We don't know yet, but we just pick a group of, so far we just pick a group, and it's just a subset of our population. So the parameter is the big picture, and the statistic comes just from the group that we're studying. Then the variable would just be the income of one person. That's exactly what we're studying. So we're just taking one person, and it's like a variable in algebra. It's the x value. So it's just what we're looking for. It's the average income. I mean, if x represents the number of apples, then it's the average income of an apple. I mean, this is just an example, but average income of one employed person in Arkansas. So parameter is just what the big picture is. Statistic is the number for the sample, the little group that we pick. It doesn't have to be little. It's just the group that we pick. Okay, I hope that helps. Okay. Anything else? I could go over any of the homeworks, any of the examples. I always print out the homework, so I have it right in front of me, and or the wrap-ups, and you can always ask questions after this. Again, tomorrow I'll be on, tomorrow evening. If you can't make a session, you can just email me questions and I'll answer them in the session because I record all the sessions. I mean, later on we might be using Excel more, so I can go into that also on here. Right now, I don't think you really need it. You can find standard deviation with Excel, but there's also the formula that you can use. It's kind of a long formula. You can also use a calculator. If you have a statistics calculator, that will find you the standard deviation. And let me just say one more thing without a question about standard deviation. So we're looking for two types. There's two types. There's of a population, and there's one of a sample. So for the population, we divide, in the formula we divide by n. I won't write down the whole formula, but in the example, we divide by n minus 1. And this just gives us a better result. You have to remember that in math, there's just a lot of rules. And in the history of all these formulas, people have studied that when you have a sample, it's a lot smaller than the population, and it gives us a better picture if we divide it by one less than the number in our sample. So those are just the rules that we use. And when you're doing Excel, we do .p for population, and we really never have a population because we can't measure a population. So for when we do the work, we're always going to be working with samples. And the samples have to be chosen to represent the population. You can't just pick anybody. It's like you can't just ask questions or pick people walking into a grocery store. What grocery store do they like the best when they're at a grocery store? That gives you a skewed answer. So, or, yeah, that's a good example. So again, we'll learn how to pick samples, but right now in Excel, we're going to be using, or if you don't use Excel, we're going to be using the sample standard deviation. And then when we talk about normal distribution later on, we'll learn what we use the standard deviation for. So right now we're just going to find it, learn how to find it, and the formula for it, and that's about it for this week. Looking through this week, I wrote down on my note cards what's important, and actually we talked about everything that's important. I have, for my note cards, I would suggest you have the definitions of population, sample, statistic, parameter, variable. And then I suggest that you write down the percentile formula. You find quartiles the same as you do percentiles. Quartiles 25, the first quartile is 25%, so you just treat it as a 25% tile. The third quartile is 75%, so you can treat that as a 75% tile. And then I know that's all I have for my note cards, though. Do you have any questions? Any more questions? You can use the chat feature to ask me questions if you don't have a microphone. And I guess otherwise I don't have anything else to go over. If I guess one other thing is if you're not getting your questions answered in the Q&A, the exchange, then by all means, we have 2 coaches in this class, Ida and Michelle, and they're the ones that are grading. So I will be looking at your questions, and if a question isn't answered or if it's not answered correctly, I'll go ahead and correct it and do that Friday. But please let me know. You can ask as many questions as you have in the Q&A, in the exchange. So ask your questions. The only way that you're going to get help and be able to do this course is to ask questions. Don't let it go by without understanding something, because this whole class is based on, you know, what's previously learned. So it's really important to ask questions. There's no bad question. We're here to help. All right, well, that's all I have, but I'll stay on till like 10 o'clock, and if you think of something, just talk or chat. Send me a chat. All right, well, I'm going to log off. I don't see anybody on, so thank you for joining.